Have you ever felt offended by a comment or action someone made against you or someone you know? You don't know why, but something seemed off and stuck with you. Maybe the comment was related to race, gender, or even disability status. If this sounds familiar, you may have dealt with a microaggression. Today, I will explain to you the complex world of microaggressions. To do so, there are some key things you will need to know, such as what is racism, what is white privilege, what is the definition of microaggressions, and finally, what are real-life microaggressions? With that out of the way, let's get started. To understand microaggressions, we must look at its core, racism. Racism is a nuanced topic, and as such, there are many opinions on how to define it. Sociology professor Eduardo Bonilla Silva divides the discussion in two and looks at racism as either its older iteration or its newer form. In the definition of old racism, you will generally find four ideas being used or discussed. Racism is reliant on the idea of race. By that, I mean the social concept of race. Prejudice or biases are held against a group. Discrimination or actions occur to a group. And a group is dominated or controlled. An example of this would be the colonization of the North American natives by the European settlers. New racism's definition is not completely separate from old racism. Instead, think of old racism as the parent and new racism as the child. New racism is more evolved to fit our current world. This means it's more subtle in how it hurts people. You're less likely to see racial terminology as it tries to disconnect from the idea of race. At the same time, however, it is used to uphold racial privileges of the past. An example of this would be talking about the economy in border states instead of explicitly talking about the immigrant population. Racism goes hand in hand with microaggressions, but there is a third friend that we should not ignore. That is, white privilege. White privilege is the direct benefit one gets from being white within a racist system. For example, I am white. Thus, I do not have to worry about a job not hiring me because of my race. Peggy McIntosh, an American activist, talks about how one of the benefits of white privilege is that it allows white people to ignore many things relating to race. In other words, it can be used as a justification for ignorance. This ignorance then leads to people committing microaggressions without even knowing they are doing so, feeding into their own privilege. This hateful feedback loop is an essential part of the microaggression process, as it has allowed microaggressions to flourish. Now that you have the necessary background knowledge on microaggressions, I think it is time to dive in headfirst and see what microaggressions are. Professors Daniel Solorzano, Miguel Ceja, and Tara Yoso define a microaggression as a subtle form of insult directed at a minority group, usually automatically or unconsciously. This was something we touched on earlier in the feedback loop. A microaggression is not always intentional, like the old racism we have seen in the past. It can be verbal, nonverbal, or visual. They also are not only related to race. Microaggressions can affect other minority groups, such as the disabled, women, or non-binary. Most of us have been insulted before, and due to this, you might be thinking, I've had my feelings hurt before, and it wasn't that deep, so why are microaggressions so bad? Well, according to research done by the previously mentioned Professor Solorzano, microaggressions inflict more harm than a standard insult. When a person experiences a microaggression, it does not go away. Instead, it builds up over time. This can become a situation where you experience death by 1,000 cuts. They may seem little, but enough will do significant damage. As things build, people begin to feel like they do not belong and can become disconnected from the people around them. One of the scariest things about microaggressions is they can happen anywhere, even in educated spaces. In the research done by Professor Solorzano, universities were not found to be safe spaces, even though they have the reputation of being enlightened. Finally, nothing that perpetuates a racist system is not also harmful. If something allows racism to continue, it is harmful by its existence alone. I hope that you now have a better understanding of what microaggressions are and why they are harmful to our society. I think now would be an appropriate time to share real-life examples of microaggressions that I have either heard or experienced as a disabled woman, so that you have a better time spotting microaggressions in your own life. Racial microaggressions include, you speak good English, or you don't act like insert race. The first comment is hurtful because it can make a person feel excluded and less intelligent. They may mean it as a compliment, but it's backhanded as it relies on the idea of a person from a different group speaking bad English. The second comment is extremely harmful because you are putting down a person's race, a crucial part of who they are and their identity. Gender-based microaggressions include boys will be boys or mansplaining. The first comment is often used to excuse harmful behavior by men against women, while the second is a phenomenon in which men explain things to women as if they are stupid. Both allow harmful behavior to occur against women, the first in a literal sense and the second in a mental sense as it demeans a person. Finally, we have ableist microaggressions. These include, I love to clean, I'm super OCD, or are you off your meds? The first comment is harmful because it diminishes the seriousness of OCD. OCD is not about loving to clean, it's a mental health condition that hurts many people. The second comment is just as harmful because it stigmatizes mental illness and the use of medication. Comments like these can make a person scared to be honest about their mental health or feel like they should not take medication or else they will be viewed as crazy. I would like to thank all of you for listening to my core concept video on microaggressions. Here I have listed my references in case you would like to check them out yourself. Once again, thank you for watching, and I hope you have a great rest of your day.